From Creamer Media in Johannesburg, this is the Real Economy Report. Our top stories this week. The EASSy cable lands at Mtunzini beach in KwaZulu-Natal. We ask, when should South Africa order its next nuclear power station? And the iron ore mining industry is proving recession-proof, especially for South Africa's Kumba iron ore. Engineering News was part of a media contingent attending the landing of the 10,000-kilometre fibre optic cable EASSy project on South Africa's east coast. Brindavani Naidu reports.
It was all systems go for the fibre optic Eastern Africa submarine cable system landing in Mtunzini in KwaZulu-Natal. The cable system is one of 9 undersea telecoms cables that will connect various parts of sub-Saharan Africa to the rest of the world by 2011. The project signifies great strides not only for the South African telecommunications industry, but for Africa as well. Telkom Executive for Global Capacity Business, Johan Meyer, explains.
Well, for telecommunications in Africa, and maybe particularly to the East African region, when this cable was initially planned, it was going to be the first fibre optic cable in East Africa. As you know, that honour has been bestowed on Seacom that landed in around September last year, or went live in September last year. So EASSy will bring a new dimension in that it brings a redundant cable system into East Africa. What we will see in East Africa is now that there will be 2 fibre cables serving the East Africa region, which means that there's redundant fibre. So the dependence on satellite can be severely cut back. And of course, the other thing that it does as well is that EASSy at this point in time is the biggest submarine cable that will land in Africa, as well as specifically East Africa, bringing obviously with it large capacity to serve the needs of East Africa for the next 10 or 15 years.
South Africa still hopes to create a local nuclear manufacturing industry centred on large overseas designed pressurised water reactors. Keith Campbell reports.
The main contenders to build new pressurised water reactor, or PWR, nuclear power plants in South Africa are US company Westinghouse and French group Areva. I asked Areva Southern Africa Chairman Mohamed Mahdi how soon South Africa would have to place an order for a new PWR power plant if this country wanted to develop an internationally competitive nuclear manufacturing industry.
I think that the country needs to make the decision to go nuclear as soon as possible, the sooner the better. We think that if a decision is made in this year, it is still within the right time frames to get us through any potential power crises that may arise, given current projections. And we expect that if a decision is made in this year, by about 2018, we could have the first nuclear power plant operational. In terms of how much, I think as a minimum, South Africa needs 20 gigawatts of nuclear power. And the phasing of that is going to depend on a number of factors. So it's too soon to say, how that must be phased. But the first set needs to start as soon as possible.
Developing a local nuclear industry based on a nuclear power expansion program is called localization, and this is exactly what South Africa seeks to do. But if Areva won the contract, how much support would the company give to localization?
Localization is absolutely key to Areva, and that's why we would support localization to the maximum extent possible. Not just in terms of providing expertise and knowledge transfer and training, but also in terms of investing under the right circumstances in certain capabilities in the local industry, to promote the local industry. So it is one of the cornerstones of our involvement in the nuclear industry wherever we go, and South Africa is going to be no different. In fact, South Africa, that involvement is going to be heightened and is even of more significance because of the unique position South Africa is in right now to exploit localization and out of that create an export industry.
Mining Weekly went to Kumba Iron Ore's latest presentation to gain a new insight into its production success. Martin Creamer reports.
Kumba Iron Ore's secret of production success is that it's kept its foot firmly on the accelerator pedal throughout the downturn. Kumba CEO Chris Griffith comments.
We had a fantastic production performance this year. You remember when we spoke this time last year and I said to you we were looking to increase 10% this year in the midst of this economic downturn, and everyone thought I was a bit strange. And not only have we increased by 10%, we've bettered that and increased production for 2009 by 16%. We had a fantastic export performance, and we increased export sales by 37% year on year. That was a really remarkable achievement.
And what about the outlook now, Chris? Can you sustain this level of increase?
Yeah, Martin, I think we're looking to 2010 to increase by about 5% this year. We're in the final ramp-up process for the jig plant. So we're unlikely to see the same kind of production increases as last year, but nevertheless still production increases again this year. And then it'll be stable for a year or two, and then we get the benefit of the Sishen South project, or the new Kolomela mine, and that is due for first production in 2012, increasing to full production in 2013. So that production's on track, the project's going brilliantly. And again also, you remember this time last year we spoke about, in the midst of the economic downturn, I said not only are we increasing production, but we are going to keep our foot on the accelerator, keep spending money on the project. Well, we've done that, the project's going brilliantly, we're ahead of schedule slightly. So the project's on time, on budget.
And CapEx outlook, what are you going to spend going forward now?
Yeah, we will be increasing capital as we increase our spend on Sishen South, on the Kolomela mine. So we're giving a range today between 4.5 and 5 billion rands worth of capital spend for 2010. So we will be increasing our project spend, and we will be increasing our spend on staying business capital as we need to increase the amount of waste mined at the mine.
How much cash did you pump in the year?
Over 12 billion rand of cash was generated this year. We were able to pay significant dividends, taxes, and pay for capital. So, all round we've had a great, and continue to return cash to shareholders.
And now for a sneak preview of this week's Engineering News magazine. In our cover story, we report that desalination could comprise up to 10% of South Africa's urban water supply mix by 2030. The African Development Bank pledges to provide more support for renewable energy projects across the continent. And read about South Africa's Department of Science and Technology, which is looking at the possibility of reactivating and re-establishing space rocket launch facilities in South Africa. And in Mining Weekly this week, in our cover story, we revisit the issue of nationalising South Africa's mines. We report that the South African government has invited mining law stalwart Peter Leon to be part of the mining industry's growth, development and employment task team. And South Africa's Chamber of Mines says that although the electricity tariff hikes were in line with expectations, they will still add strain. That's Creamer Media's Real Economy Report. Join us again next week for more news and insights into South Africa's real economy.